So today's video is going to be a ranking predictions video. So if you haven't seen me do this before, I go through a bunch of books that I'm hoping to read in the upcoming season. So for this particular one, it'll be books from my fall TBR. And then I just rank them from 1 to at least 10, but ideally if I can get around to all 15 of these, it'll be ranking 1 to 15 of enjoyment. 1, of course, being the best, 15 being the worst. But the goal isn't for me to find books I think I'm going to hate or anything. I'm hoping to enjoy all of these. But what's fun about this is that when I do the follow-up video to actually see how I felt about them and I compare the rankings, it's hopefully entertaining for all of you, because the last time I did this, I was very off. But also, this is something you can do for your own reading, because when you follow up, it kind of highlights how well you either do or do not know your taste. And then it kind of helps you pinpoint, what do I actually enjoy? What am I maybe picking up because of hype? Or what am I XYZ, whatever thing, fill in the blank. Or it can be just a fun little game to see if you are good at predicting what you're gonna like. Because I was so off the last time, I think that made for a kind of entertaining video. So I'll have it linked if you're interested. But jumping into the books that will be on today's list, in no particular order, we have Codex Alera, Sky Hunter, Skin of the Sea, Vespertine, Son of the Storm, the 5th Season, Rule of Wolves, The Cardinal's Blades, Night Watch, Gideon the Ninth, Firekeeper's Daughter, Saitonic, Boneshard Emperor, She Who Became the Sun, and Jade Fire Gold. A couple of these books weren't actually in my fall TBR video. For example, Gideon the Ninth, I mentioned having some buddy read books that I needed to get around to, and that would be one of them. And then Rule of Wolves, I've kind of put in here. I added on to my fall TBR, so that's why that's here. But otherwise, you've probably heard me mention these books before. And so therefore, I'm not going to be going into all that much detail about what these books are about. I'm just going to be ranking them. So at the bottom, the one that I think is going to be in the 15 spot would be Rule of Wolves. I did not care for King of Scars. I'm a big Grishaverse fan. I like Six of Crows. I like the original Shadow and Bone trilogy. I loved the beginning of King of Scars, and I did not like the second half. There's a couple tropes that the author utilized that I'm just not the biggest fan of. However, I am still very curious, and I think the fact that I'm a fan of this entire world, this fantasy world in general that she's created, I just feel like I have such investment in the story already, and I kind of want to know what happens, especially if she ever writes anything else. I want to have that piece of the story to go off of and know what's going on. But at the end of the day, I didn't really care for King of Scars, which is why I'm putting Rule of Wolves, its sequel, at the bottom. Next up, and I hope I'm wrong about this one, but I have to put the 5th season in the 14th spot, only because I am a basic gal. I like my storytelling to be pretty standard, and I know the 5th season does not have standard storytelling, and I know this because I tried it in the past and then I DNF'd it. And I just feel like I can't possibly put a book that I've DNF'd in the past above some of these other ones. However, I'm hoping that coming back to this book and giving it another try, and a much fairer try because I did not read that much of it last time, I'm hoping that my mind will be blown and I'll love it like everybody else seems to, and then it'll be way up at the top. So one of the few times I'm actually hoping that I'm very, very incorrect. We'll see. In the number 13 spot, we have Gideon the Ninth. I just have seen such mixed things about this one. It doesn't sound like my usual story, so I don't know where I'm gonna fall, which is why it's a little bit lower. Next up, we have Night Watch. This one's not low because I think I'm gonna hate it or anything. I don't think I'm gonna hate any of these. I have them on my TBR because I want to read them. But Night Watch, it's a translated work, so I just haven't seen all that much about it. There are other books on this list that, I don't know, I just have such hype for. They just sound so much like what I enjoy. And then there are some that are sequels to things I enjoyed, so they have a little bit of an edge on Night Watch in that way. So not really knowing a whole lot about Night Watch is the only reason really that it's in this spot. Next up, we have Codex Alera. I think I'm gonna really like Codex Alera. I'm excited. I actually quite enjoy Jim Butcher's writing style. I've read some of the Dresden books, and then I read the Aeronaut's Windlass, and while I didn't love Aeronaut's Windlass, I did enjoy the way that he writes the story. I like the tone of his books. I think they're a lot of fun. They're very adventurous, and I always say I like reading YA books between big adult fantasy books because it's a nice balance. It can be so refreshing and just fun and a good time. And that's not necessarily to say that adult fantasy can't also be fun, and it's not to say that YA fantasy can't also be epic or more serious in tone, but that's just kind of the general vibe. Jim Butcher's books, to me, are that refreshing thing between some of the epic stuff, except for it's also adult. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna really like it. I think it's gonna be a really good time. I don't think I'm going to fall head over heels in love with it as far as the emotional stuff goes, though, and that's usually what puts books at the top of my favorites list, is when it really hits me. I just don't expect this one to hit me, but I think I'm gonna have a good time with it. Next up, we have Skin of the Sea. This is a new release that the marketing for it is saying it's kind of like combining The Little Mermaid with Children of Blood and Bone, except for that our main character is basically going up against the gods. I just think that that sounds really cool, but I also have had not the best luck with sea-centered stories. There's one series that I thought was quite fun, All the Stars and Teeth. It's a duology, and I enjoyed that one. I thought that the way that the author did the descriptions were brilliant. It was very vivid and colorful, and I could just see it in my mind, the way she described things. But the story was just, it was fun. It was fun. And the rest of the time, I don't know what it is, but Little Mermaid type stories just, I'm always intrigued by them, and then I never end up really loving them. So, I don't know. I hope to love this one. It sounds awesome. But at the same time, just kind of thinking about my previous track record, that's the reason why it's not higher up. Next up, and this might be surprising to some people that this is kind of more in the middle area of the list, we have Saitonic. So the reason that Saitonic is here, this is the sequel, this is the third book after Skyward and then Starsight, is a Brandon Sanderson sci-fi story, and I love Sanderson's writing. I think most of you know that. And I do enjoy the series, but I loved Skyward so much. And then Starsight kind of went in a different direction. If I'm not mistaken, Sanderson said recently that our character is kind of going to go on another solo mission kind of thing. And the thing I really love about Skyward is the friendships and the camaraderie and the teamwork. And so if we're going to do another solo mission, I'm like, oh, but I want all that back. I will say, Starsight ended fantastically, and I'm so intrigued and I'm so ready for Saitonic, but just knowing what I like about this series and the potential of not quite getting that again, I just don't know if it's going to be absolute new favorite. I'm hoping it's going to be more, I think I'm going to like it more than Starsight, and then I think I'm going to be excited for whatever the last one is, but I don't know that I'm going to love it more than Skyward. Next up, we have Vespertine by Margaret Rodgerson. And I don't know a whole lot about this one. I believe there's kind of like bone magic or magic to do with death and things like that. And I have this one where it's at because Margaret Rodgerson thus far has not let me down. I enjoyed Sorcery of Thorns and I enjoyed An Enchantment of Ravens. It's funny because I feel like a lot of other people like one or the other, and I liked both. I think they're very different from one another, but I liked both of them. But that also means I don't know what to expect with this one. I don't know what I'm going to be getting. Margaret Rodgerson, I think, has the ability to write beautifully, but then she also has the ability to write kind of wholesome, sweet, cute things, which isn't really what I think we're going to get with this one. So I don't know what we're going to get. But I know I like Margaret Rodgerson's other works, so I think I'm going to like this one too. Next up, we have The Cardinal's Blades. So I'm kind of combining my feelings for Night Watch with my feelings for Codex, but then elevating this one up, probably honestly because there's dragons. So Night Watch, I mentioned that it's a translated work, and thus I haven't heard a lot of people discuss it. That's true of Cardinal's Blades. It's translated, I believe, from French. And then that thing I was saying about Codex, where it's that fun, good time, or at least I'm thinking it's going to be. I also think that this one, The Cardinal's Blades, is going to be that. But there are dragons, and it just feels like more kind of classic fantasy. And I don't know. I think it's the dragons. I think the dragons are what have got me excited about this one. Next up, we have Son of the Storm. This is one of my anticipated releases of this year. I don't know a whole lot about it, other than that my friend Joshana loved it. And Joshana and I rarely love the same things. We enjoy similar things. We dislike similar things. I don't think there's a single book that we've both loved. And I'm like, at some point, we have to both love a book, right? And so I'm hoping it's going to be this one. That's it. That's basically all I'm basing this off. Plus, it sounds cool. I don't think that this one's going to hit me emotionally. I just am excited, and that would be Sky Hunter. So I've mentioned before I read 3 Marie Lu books at this point. When I say I mentioned before, I mean in previous videos. So I read Kingdom of Back, which I loved, and then I read Warcross and Wildcard, which I thought were really fun, and I thought they were a good time. And then surprisingly, the themes that were presented, I was like, hey, I wasn't expecting this. This is a little more intense than I thought I was gonna get with this story, with this virtual reality video game sci-fi YA book. And I was kind of impressed, especially because nobody seems to like those. So anyway, with Sky Hunter, it's one of her newer works, so I'm thinking, okay, so she's gonna be really skilled at her craft. She knows her own voice. She's written so many books at this point, and I liked her other sci-fi stuff. This sci-fi one sounds really good. So I'm just hoping. I just have liked everything else by Marie Lu I've read. Her track record is good, so I'm hoping I'm going to like this one too. Next up, we have Firekeeper's Daughter. So what I said previously about the books that tend to hit hard emotionally are the ones that I find myself often having as favorites. I think that is what's going to happen with this one. Everybody speaks so highly of it. Everybody said it's so beautifully written and crafted, and that the inspirations for this story are really powerful. And I'm ready. I'm ready to be all upset and to be all emotional and to have an extreme book hangover. That's what I'm thinking I'm going to get with this one. I'm just going to go through these last 3 really quick. We have She Who Became the Sun in the number 3 spot. In the number 2 spot, we have the Boneshard Emperor. And the number 1 spot, we have Jade Fire Gold. I'm surprising myself a little bit with that one. But let's start back at the number 3 with She Who Became the Sun. I've just heard such good things about this one. And I mentioned my friend Joshana. She read it and she's like, I think you will especially like this one. And then Reagan from Peruse Project had nothing but amazing things to say about it. And just everybody that seems to be picking this one up really, really likes it. Boneshard Emperor. I love Boneshard Daughter. That's basically why this one is so high up. I loved the Boneshard Daughter. I'm so excited for the Boneshard Emperor. If you've read Boneshard Daughter, you know the last chunk of that book, you're like, what? And the twists and turns are fantastic. And I really want to know what happens next. It's so innovative and it's so creative, and it kind of plays on some familiar tropes and then flips them on their head and does really interesting things with them. So excited for this sequel. Jade Fire Gold, it just sounds so good. It's an action-packed, Asian-inspired story. I believe we have a character who's upper class, a character who's lower class. It's, I think, enemies to lovers, slow burn. There's just so many things about this one, tropes that I really enjoy, plus just seeing all the character art that the author has had commissioned, which character art always gets me, but the character art looks stunning, it looks so cool, and I don't know, it just seems like the perfect fantasy story for me. I don't know. I'm excited about it. I can't really pinpoint, because I haven't read it, I can't pinpoint what it is that makes me think, oh, this is for me especially, but I think it will be. I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited for Jade Fire Gold. I'm very curious, for those of you who have read some of the books that aren't new releases that are on this list, do you think I'm gonna like them? Do you think I'm gonna hate them? What are your thoughts about a lot of the books on this list? Have you loved and hated them? And then with the new releases, are you also excited about a lot of these? Because I really am. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.